Hello and welcome, my dear students. I am Preeti Gupta, and students, we have discussed nutrition in organism in the last class. The food material taken in during the process of nutrition is used in cells to provide energy for various life processes. So, student, I am going to discuss now a second life process that is known as respiration. So, students, what is respiration? Respiration is the process by which food is burned in the cells of the body with the help of oxygen to release energy. It takes place in the mitochondria of the cells. You all know that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. The energy released during respiration is used to make ATP molecules. The full form of ATP is adenosine triphosphate. From ADP molecules, adenosine diphosphate and inorganic phosphate. You can see in the chemical reaction that ADP plus inorganic phosphate, when combined, they form ATP. Energy is stored in the cells in the form of ATP molecules. When the cells need energy, ATP is broken down in the presence of water to form ADP and energy is released. You can see in the chemical reaction that ATP in the presence of water get converted into ADP plus energy. Now, types of respiration. There are two types of respiration. First, aerobic respiration. Second, anaerobic respiration. Now I am going to discuss here one by one. Aerobic respiration. It takes place in the presence of oxygen. It produces more energy. The end products are carbon dioxide, water, and energy. It takes place in most organisms. In aerobic respiration, glucose is converted into pyruvate. The point to remember is to student that glucose is 6-membered carbon chain. Okay, and pyruvate is 3-membered carbon chain. So in aerobic respiration, glucose is converted into pyruvate in the cytoplasm in the presence of oxygen. And then in the presence of oxygen, pyruvate is converted into carbon dioxide, water and energy in the mitochondria. So just see here the chemical reaction that glucose in the presence of oxygen in cytoplasm get converted into pyruvate. It means 6 carbons are get converted into 3 carbon. And then after this pyruvate in the presence of oxygen in mitochondria get converted into carbon dioxide, water plus energy. Second, anaerobic respiration. It takes place in the absence of oxygen. It produces less energy. The end products are lactic acid or ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy. It takes place in muscle cell and yeast. In anaerobic respiration, in muscle cells, glucose is converted into pyruvate, and in the absence of oxygen, pyruvate is not converted into carbon dioxide, but it gets converted into lactic acid and energy. This buildup of lactic acid in our muscles during sudden activity causes cramps. So you can see in the chemical reaction that glucose in the presence of oxygen in cytoplasm get converted into pyruvate. And this pyruvate in muscle cells, with the absence of oxygen, it get converted into lactic acid plus energy. In anaerobic respiration in yeast, glucose is converted into pyruvate, and in the absence of oxygen, pyruvate is converted into ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy. So student, this process is known as fermentation. You can see in the chemical reaction that glucose in the presence of oxygen in cytoplasm get converted into pyruvate, and this pyruvate in the absence of oxygen in yeast converts into ethanol plus carbon dioxide plus energy. So student, these are the types of respiration. Now here is the flow chart. This flowchart shows the breakdown of glucose by various pathways. You can see that glucose in presence of oxygen in cytoplasm get converted into pyruvate plus energy. Now this pyruvate divide into three parts. First part in mitochondria, second in muscle cells, and third is yeast. In mitochondria, presence of oxygen is get converted into carbon dioxide plus water plus energy. In muscle cells, absence of oxygen, it get converted into lactic acid plus energy. In yeast, in the absence of oxygen, it get converted into ethanol plus carbon dioxide plus energy. This process is known as fermentation. Now, respiration in humans. Organs of respiratory system: nostrils, nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, lungs, diaphragm. These are the organs of respiratory system. Now, air enters through the nostrils. Student, this is a diagram of human respiratory system. So, how it works? That air enter through the nostrils. The hairs and mucus traps the dust particles. It then passes through the pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi and enters into the lungs. The trachea has ring of cartilage which prevents it from collapsing when there is no air in the trachea. The bronchi divides into smaller tubes called bronchioles, which ends in tiny air sacs called alveoli. The alveoli is supplied with blood vessels through which exchange of gases takes place. The alveoli helps to increase the surface area for the exchange of gases. Now, mechanism of breathing. When we breathe in air, the muscles of the diaphragm contracts and moves downward, and the chest cavity expands and air enters into the lungs. When we breathe out air, the muscles of the diaphragm relaxes and moves upward, and the chest cavity contracts and air goes out of the lungs. You can see in the diagram, there's one diagram is breathing in and then another diagram is breathing out. In first diagram, the chest expands when air comes in. Diaphragm contracts, and when breathing out, the chest contracts and diaphragm relax. You can do an activity at your home or in this lockdown by the balloon activity. It is very much easier to learn the mechanism of breathing. So student, this is all about the respiration, the types, the mechanism, the respiration in human beings. In the next class, I am going to teach you the next life process that is known as transportation. Thank you.